Hello, all you beautiful people out there. I hope you've had or are having a fantastic day. If you're new around here, welcome. My name is Salam. I'm the teenager who talks about teenage stuff because there simply isn't enough of it out there. If you guys do happen to be new around here, I'd appreciate it so much if you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We're so close to hitting 500 subscribers. I can taste it. So close, guys. The support has been absolutely crazy recently. I can't thank you guys enough. If you are a student out there, I hope you're having a fantastic summer break and using your time wisely. Like we discussed in last week's video, I talked about some of the productive activities that you guys could start implementing in your day-to-day summer lives. But I never actually mentioned how you go about planning your day. That's the topic of today's video. Knowing what you want to do, that's great. That's the first step, so well done. But the second step, that's the hard one. That's actually slotting it into your day and planning your day around, a main activity or slotting in a couple side activities that you want to fit in. That's what we're going to talk about today. If we take a look over on my screen here, we have the planning your day master sheet, and we're going to begin with why plan in the first place. What's the point of planning your day? The first big thing that planning your day helps overcome is that god damn it procrastination monster. We've all fallen to it at some point in our lives. Procrastination sucks, but knowing how to correctly plan your day is the first step in helping you avoid it. By actively telling yourself what you're going to do each day and putting it down either physically with a pen and paper or writing it down on a to-do list like we're going to discuss later on in today's video is the first step in eliminating procrastination. Once you have it written down, well, there's no excuse for you to not do the activity anymore. So that's step one. Write it down in order to help avoid procrastination. Reason number two, and this has been by far one of the most beneficial ones to me, is it helps you stop forgetting things and it helps you stay more organized. Have you ever had someone ask you for a favor and then 2 days pass by and then they ring you back up and like, hey, where's the favor I asked for? Yep, that's happened to me a couple times, more than I'd like to admit, but not anymore though. Now when someone asks me to do something for them, like a favor for example, I just write it down on my to-do list and I make sure I never forget. Staying organized, that's also another key reason as to why you might want to start planning your day. If you've got a lot of things going on at the moment and are feeling slightly overwhelmed, writing it down might just make your days a lot easier. It'll help you map out your day and also control your day, which is reason number three. Oftentimes we feel like we lose control over how our day is going, and that's never really a good feeling to have. So writing it down and knowing exactly what you want to do at least gives you that set of aims and guidelines you can follow to make sure your day goes a little bit better. Now that we know about some of the reasons as to why we might want to plan our days, let's look at some of the apps that you guys can use to do exactly that. If you're a returning viewer of the channel, you know how much I love the Microsoft to-do list app and that little thing that it gives you every single time you complete a task. So that's that little blue check mark that you see on screen right now. That's the icon for the Microsoft to-do list app. If you want a completely separate video on how to use the Microsoft to-do list app, some of the benefits, check it out. Top link in the corner right there. If you don't feel like using the Microsoft to-do list app, then no worries. Just sign yourself up for a calendar app like Google Calendar. It's the little icon with the 31 inside. It's a great way to help you stay organized in the long term and plan any activities you might want to do 2 weeks from now on. With the Microsoft to-do list app, I usually tend to do it for a day-to-day basis, either in the mornings or in the evenings. I just write down what I want to do the next day. But with the Google Calendar, if you have something planned that's going to take longer than maybe a day or two, it might be worth checking it out. Now, of course, the Google Calendar isn't the only calendar app out there. Explore, find what works for you and find what you can sync with all of your devices. The final app that I have down here, this might not even necessarily be an app. Pen and paper will do just fine, but if you do have GoodNotes can be an effective way to help you plan out your day, because I know some people out there like to handwrite and like to handwrite out a timetable or like to handwrite out a schedule. So GoodNotes or just a classic pen and paper might do the trick for you guys. Also, one of the other great apps that I forgot to mention is Notion. If you're looking for an in-depth guide as to what Notion can do, make sure to check out that video in the top right hand corner. So now that we've looked at why you might want to plan your day in the first place, as well as what tools you can use to plan your day, let's look at how to actually plan your day. Now, I've come up with two methods. I use one of them. Second one's also really effective, but not so much for me because I'm not the type of person that likes sticking to a time-based schedule, but we'll talk about both of the methods in today's video. Just before we get started here, a quick tip: make sure your goals and aims are manageable and reasonable. Don't write down, I want to start a multi-billion-dollar company in 5 minutes. I'm not going to stop you. If you can do it, mad props, but I think you get the point. Setting reasonable goals and aims and tasks and building up momentum slowly is a much more sustainable way about how you can remain productive. Not just start being productive, but how you can remain productive and keep getting more productive as the days go on. Anyways, let's move on with the first approach, and it's the task-based approach. Now, the task-based approach consists of you writing down absolutely everything that you need to do. Here you can see a screenshot of my to-do list app. These are all the things that I need to do over the summer. Have I done any of them? maybe. Anyways, that's not important. But the task-based approach consists of you writing down absolutely everything that you need to do and then checking it off one by one. Now, when utilizing the task-based approach, I like to use two different mediums. So either use the to-do list app, like I mentioned earlier, or you just grab a piece of paper and a pen and you write it down and then cross it off when you're done. By the way, guys, just so you know, this is the method that I prefer to use. That does not mean that it is the better of the two methods. That does not mean that you guys have to use the method. It is important that you choose a method that works well for you. I personally find that writing down everything that I need to do and then just cracking on with it and being a little bit more free with my time rather than more rigid like the second method that we're going to look at works better for me. Now let's look at some of the pros and cons of the task-based approach. So one of the pros of using the task-based approach is that it's quick and effective. If you have the Microsoft to-do list app, you can download it on all 3 of your devices, all 4 of your devices, however many devices you have, and then just write down the task that you need to do. It syncs up across all your devices and it literally takes about 5 seconds. Pro number 2 is, as you can see by the screenshot, you've got little stars next to each of the tasks that you need to do, so you can favorite them and set priorities to each of the different tasks. If you're using a pen and paper, make sure you either circle or highlight whatever task that you want to set priority to. It makes your life a lot easier. However, one of the cons of this method is that you can oftentimes spend a little bit too much time focused on one task in specific. If you aren't aware of how much time you've spent on a specific task, it can be a little bit difficult to manage your time and make sure you have enough time in the day to actually complete everything. If you have something that takes a little bit longer and you've planned three things to do in that day and you spend all your time on that first activity, then you're in a little bit of a pickle. The task-based approach, well, I'd recommend it for anyone who's looking for a quick and easy way to plan their day, not too much hassle around it, but also someone who can manage their time relatively well and keep an eye out on how much time they're spending on each of their activities, but also someone who's looking to be a little bit more flexible than with the time-based approach. Now, the time-based approach is the second approach that I have for you guys today, and it consists of writing down each of the things that you want to do in a given time slot. So it's a little bit more rigid, it's a little bit more strict than the task-based approach. As you can see right here by the example that I have on screen, it consists of you writing down allocated time slots and then writing down the task that you want to perform in that allocated time slot right next to it. Now, some of the pros of using this time-based approach is that it allows you to allocate an adequate amount of time to each task, and it helps you balance between each of the things that you need to do. Now, unlike the task-based approach, the time-based approach sets strict time boundaries, and by adhering to these strict time boundaries, you'll ensure that you allocate an adequate amount of time to each of the tasks that you need to do today. If you find yourself getting carried away quite easily with the task-based approach, then give the time-based approach a shot. It might just be the right thing for you to do. However, one of the cons of using the time-based approach is that it takes a long time to plan. Like, I couldn't imagine myself sitting in front of my computer in the evening or in the mornings and writing down each of the tasks into each of the allocated time slots. That just wouldn't work for me because I like living a more flexible lifestyle compared to a more rigid and planned one. Now that we've answered 3 questions, why should we plan? What tools should I use to plan? And also, how can I plan? Let's look at what to do when. It can be quite hard deciding what you guys want to do in the morning, what you guys want to do in the afternoon, and what you guys want to do in the evening. Now, apart from a few specific activities, I don't really have a preference as to what I do when. It kind of just boils down to personal preference for me, but I do have some tips that I'd like to share with you guys that might help you decide when to do what. Now, bear in mind, this totally boils down to personal preference, and whether or not you're a night owl or an early riser, it's completely up to you. But these are just some of the tips that I found are quite helpful over the past few years. So in the morning, you have the most motivation that you'll have throughout the entire day. You'll also have the highest levels of willpower. So logically, if your willpower is at its highest and if your motivation is at its highest, you want to get all your strenuous work done early in the morning. And I'm talking about either training or doing some mentally taxing work. Most people will tend to feel super productive in the morning, so make sure you utilize this boost to your advantage and get all that heavy work done. One of the great things about training early on in the morning is that it releases a lot of endorphins into your brain so that you feel motivated and you feel ready to go to tackle the afternoon. Therefore, in the afternoon, I'd also suggest maybe doing some lighter work, maybe not as mentally taxing as some of the stuff you might want to do in the mornings, or focus on your hobbies. The afternoon is a great time to practice any of your hobbies, such as playing a musical instrument. But if you have any work left over from the morning, then by all means, carry on with that. Just make sure you get some of the more mentally taxing stuff done earlier on. And then in the evening, I'd recommend either spending some more time on your hobbies, finding some leisure time, or exercising. I know a lot of people like to exercise later on in the evening. This is totally dependent on your preference, but as I said, your willpower and motivation are going to be the highest in the morning and lowest in the evening. And in the evening, that's when you need to start switching off and getting mentally prepared for the next day. Also, something super important that I forgot to write down here on my little notepad is that you need to be finding enough time for sleep. I'd recommend 8 hours no matter what your age range is. If you're younger, then slightly more, guys. Guys, sleep is super underrated, especially if you're a student. And although you might not plan it by writing it down, try getting at least 8 hours every single night. I can feel the difference if I get 30 minutes less, let alone 2 hours. I know, sounds kind of crazy, but it really does make a difference. Anyway, guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. I hope I helped you guys figure out some of the ins and outs that go into planning your day, and I hope I've made it a little bit clearer as to how you can fit some of those productive activities that we talked about earlier on in the week. If you guys have any other approaches as to how you plan your day, I'd be super interested to hear them out. Let me know in the comments down below. Let's help each other out here on YouTube. If you guys did enjoy the video, I'd appreciate it so much if you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The support has been absolutely crazy recently, and I can't thank you guys enough. And without further ado, I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I hope you have a fantastic week to come, and I will see all of you guys later.